Today on episode 7 of the Reaper Paranormal Show, we are discussing the Bridgewater Triangle. So stay tuned for that exciting episode. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today on this episode. I am Roy, the founder and lead investigator of the Reaper Paranormal team, and I'm joined by my co-host and RPI team member, Tom. What's going on, Tom?
Not much. What's going on, Roy? How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited about this show. Talk about the Bermuda Triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle. Being an investigator for all these years, our team is based in southern Massachusetts, so we deal with a lot of this stuff in our area. You being a little down south than us, in New England, what do you what's your view down there of the Bridgewater Triangle?
Well, it's funny because it's like me being into paranormal. I'm super interested in it, but I have a lot of friends that have no idea what I'm talking about when I say Bridgewater Triangle. It's like, what is that? And everybody automatically goes to Bermuda Triangle when they hear it, and I mean, I understand that's the most famous triangle, but there's there's these sort of triangles all over the world. There's one, they have the Vermont, what's it called, the Bennington and Vermont Triangle, and there's some in Europe, and it's always fascinated me, especially some of the spots within there. I've always wanted to do it. Unfortunately, most of my friends aren't. Like, they'll watch a show on the paranormal or supernatural or whatever, but they're not into it like I am. I don't have many friends that'll be like, hey, let's go to the Freetown State Forest for a day or two and explore. That would do it, So, yeah.
Well, when we do a case outside, if one or two of them want to join us,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, not many are into it, but
also tell all your friends. We have a policy. Anybody that gets us an investigation gets to come with us. So, we don't want just anybody to come on our cases with us, but like, if someone gets us a case, the way I look at it is, you should be able to come with us.
Yeah.
And experience it. Get a little perk for people that, help us out.
Mm-hmm.
We're always looking for cases, fun places to investigate. So, and since you put up all that good stuff, why don't you just lead us off with the Lauren Coleman info?
All right. Well, so the Bridgewater Triangle, as it's dubbed, it was first coined by a cryptozoologist named Lauren Coleman in the 70s, and came to sort of prominence within the vernacular after his book Mysterious America came out, where he describes the Bridgewater Triangle. And just so people know, the points of the triangle are supposedly Freetown, Rehoboth, and Abington, Massachusetts. And but it's not a perfect triangle. It's not like it's, you have your triangle and everything happens within it and never outside a line. Those lines move just like the Bermuda Triangle, just like the Bennington Triangle. It's not a perfect triangle. And some of the towns that it encompasses are Brockton, Whitman, East and West Bridgewater, Middleborough, Dighton, Berkeley, Raynham, Easton, Lakeville, Seekonk, and Taunton.
In all places that our team, ironically, has had not necessarily investigated, but there's been some paranormal activity linked, and people have to talk to us about activity in those areas, which is kind of ironic because one of the things Lauren Coleman says, especially in his book, is that our area is loaded with a lot of history and paranormal, and it's just murders that happen here. We have a lot of stuff happening here that's above normal in general. This was when the book came out, but it was abnormal for the time that stuff happened here. So we're gonna get more into that stuff, and Yeah, it's crazy. People to this day will talk to me, even at work, will ask me about the Bridgewater Triangle. So get used to that, Tom, because I'm sure where you live, like you just said earlier, um, people in your area don't know a lot about it. Well, they're going to start asking you when they realize you're an investigator. Guess who
Yeah.
they're going to go to?
And in defense of a lot of people, especially in my hometown, we do have a lot of our own hauntings that people are, more preoccupied with, whether it's the monastery or Nine Men Misery or any of the haunted cemeteries. So we have a lot going on. So that could be reason. I'm just speculating a lot on it, but yeah, it's
Which, thanks to Tom,
crazy how much, you know.
I'm
What's
sorry,
that?
you were cutting out, so I was just jumping in while you were cutting out. I was just
Oh,
saying,
I was.
no, you were just cutting out. I think let me jump in and try to help him out. Um, I was saying thanks to you, you're basically helping us expand into Rhode Island. I feel like we're military taking over.
Yeah,
Like you're helping us get some stuff down there going, which is
yeah.
kind of cool. And so we're expanding. So I'm looking forward to that because you're in that area. You know more about the hauntings in that area than I do. So that's cool. So that we can expand a little bit. Um, but yeah, have you ever been to the Hockomock Swamp?
I have not.
Oh, all right. When the weather warms up, we're going to the Hockomock Swamp. And just so the people at home understand, there is 5,000 acres of wetland. Now, there have been sightings of Bigfoot, Thunderbirds, and UFOs, which the UFOs themselves have been over the swamp. They've also been over on Route 138 over by the Random Dog Track. There, I believe you. I don't know if you have it in your notes. I'm trying to remember this. I believe police have seen strange lights over the 138 dog track area. I don't remember if it was in the 80s or the 70s, but there have been several sightings of that sort where no one's been able to explain. And actually, I got a message a few days ago, people messaging me asking me if I saw the strange lights in the sky. I have no idea what they were talking about, but I had 5 people messaging me. What were those lights in the sky? Did you see them? I didn't see a damn thing. I wasn't in the house. But something happened a few nights ago here in Massachusetts, and there were odd lights in the sky apparently, and people don't know what they were, which it happens here sometimes. Was it military doing some practice runs, doing Air Force doing something? I don't know, but every once in a while it happens here where we get strange lights. It happened last summer, not this past summer, the summer before, where we had these strange lights that no one could explain. The government claims they weren't doing anything around here, so it's just it's just crazy.
Yeah, strange light seems to come up a lot within there, and it is just really fascinating within this. Like Lauren called it, noticing how much activity in this. That's sort of when he realized it kind of made a triangle. Just all this activity centered in this area. So it's really fascinating.
And you have some notes on what the Hockomock Swamp translates to with the Wampanoag Indians?
Yes.
Give that out.
Yeah, so translated from the Wampanoag language, it means the place where spirits dwell.
And some people actually also call it the dark place. And what's eerie, I've actually had somebody tell me that some people actually call it the devil's place, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
We had somebody actually tell us that in that area, in that specific area, that some people call it that. We went there one night. Now, just so everybody knows, our paranormal team, we don't break into places. We don't go places illegally. But one night, we actually finished the case early, and we decided to go there because one of my investigators is a Bigfoot guy, which you guys will meet hopefully soon. And there's actually a house. When you go in, it's pretty good into the woods. You come across a house with a little driveway, And it's like you stare at it and then you look. There's the lake in front of you, and it's like that's kind of odd. And somebody lives there, but it's
Really?
weird. It's just in the woods. Yeah, it's a random little house in the woods.
And somebody lives there now.
Yep. Someone. Well, they were there a few years ago when we went there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, at that time they were at least anyway.
Jeez.
But we went there because there were reports of giant birds the size of humans flying around. Which, come on, I don't know if I buy that, but
yeah, these are the thunderbirds.
Yeah,
referred to. Some people say they look like pterodactyls.
Yep, so. With glowing red eyes. And then you have the werewolf-like dogs, but they'll say they're much larger, like wild canines or wolves. I think someone's been drinking too much personally, but you never know, I guess. I mean, they do say that there's a part of the Hucklebuck Swamp that humans haven't even been to yet, and that there's wildlife and probably plant life and insects that have probably never been seen before because they can't get to some of the spots in the swamp, which I found amazing because, like, you're on Earth, you should be able to get to every point on Earth, but they said it's so indensed with vegetation, they can't get to it. And it's all protected land, so they can't just tear it down to.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting.
Yeah, that is because, like you said, when you think about it, you think like, oh, well, it's Earth. Everything must have been seen by this point. And it's like, no, not even close. It's like, there's so many parts of this world that it's just like, that's why we still discover species. And that's actually a great point on cryptozoology. Like, some people, if they don't know, they hear cryptozoology and zoologists and they think it's some sort of pseudoscience, and it's really not, because it's, I mean, you have cryptozoologists and they just like, I wish I would have written it down, but not long ago they discovered the species that they thought were extinct for centuries and centuries, and it's just and nobody, because they were extinct, most zoologists and scientists don't really investigate it, but cryptozoologists do, and it's a real study. It's a real can't think of the word. It's a real thing because I can't think of the word.
No, I can't. It's been a crazy week. We both been working a lot, and he's been working a lot. I have, but I'm just lazy. So yeah, but yeah, it's really nuts, and it's funny. Around the swamp, but off the swamp on 24, I guess in 1908, two undertakers saw what they called a giant lantern floating in the sky. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, a giant lantern? That's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know in 1908 what would translate into a giant lantern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1908. Were they making it up? I don't know. I mean, but they claimed they saw, and they watched it for over half an hour. What the hell were they doing? They were sitting there for half an hour watching a giant lantern.
Yeah.
They got mushrooms, and there's a lantern hanging from a tree, and then there's kind of watching it. Maybe
That's strange. That's very strange.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if you know this, but the Hucklebuck Swamp is considered the heart of the whole Bridgewater Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about this for a couple of years now. And if that's true, that the Hucklebuck Swamp is the heart of the triangle, then in my opinion, the King Philip's War is going to be the brain. And what I mean by that is a bunch of cases that we've investigated and places we've been to investigate, there's been some sort of King Philip's War activity there at some point in our history of New England. And a lot of our hauntings directly, indirectly seem to revolve around the King Philip's War, because it was such a bloody, horrible conflict on both sides. Mm-hmm. And there's so much energy around the swamp in other areas because of the war. I just believe that it's a huge reason why
it is a factor. Even here, like some of the places I took you to when you came down here and stuff, it ties right directly. Nine Men in Misery, one of the haunted places we went to, ties directly back to the King Philip War.
What's the paranormal activity? Is there actual paranormal activity there?
Yes, the supposed.
Yeah. Is that public property or is that private property? Do you know?
Public.
Because I'm thinking maybe we can go there some evening or sometime when it's quiet, when the weather's warmer, obviously.
Yeah.
And do some EVPs and just kind of,
Yeah.
check it out.
I'm down for that. Yeah, because it's supposedly that's when the activity is at night. I've heard that you can hear some of the screams of the 9 men that were slaughtered there. So yes, there is like that whole monastery that I took you to. That's what we call.
Yeah, I'm dying to go to that monastery.
There's supposedly a lot of activity with it, like in those woods. And then we went by the window where the famous picture was taken. And that building supposedly haunted as well. Yeah, there's supposedly quite a bit of activity concentrated right in that monastery area. So yeah, anytime.
All right. For now on, what I'm going to do is, I keep forgetting we're recording this. We're not live. When you freeze up, I'll just tell you to stop, and then we'll just back up and just start from the beginning.
Okay.
I'm always forgetting that like we're just recording this, and like I'm like I can just tell him to stop, and like he froze, and then he can just stop, and you know what I mean? Because I last episode I ended up just deleting that section of it. It's like we should never do that. We're recording it. It's not even live. I'm trying to remember that. But anyway, all right. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
You want to jump in the Freetown State Forest, or do you have more to say?
No, I'm good. Go on to the next one.
All right. So, our next area of discussion, the Freetown State Forest. Now, in your research, did you look up all the satanic activity?
No, I just did. Some general stuff that just talked about it. Satanic. The satanic activity and some of the animal mutilations that could or may not be tied to the sort of satanic stuff going on there, as well as briefly touched on that possibly some human sacrifice as well.
It's funny. I've been to the Freetown State Forest, which I'm going to drag Tom there, and
I really want to go.
It's going to be very creepy, especially at night. So basically, at one point, 30 years ago, well, it's probably more like 40 plus years ago now, there was big occult activity. The cult activity was so bad, they actually formed a special police force unit just for occult activity. That's how bad it was. And in the 90s, there were these men walking through the woods, and they found a hidden bunker. And in the bunker, they found stained, torn, mostly children's clothing, dolls with their eyes torn out, and a small wooden chair only a little child could sit on. And there was a ritual weapon, basically a knife, that was found there also. And mysteriously, to this day, no one knows what happened there, which is kind of creepy. Then you have the famous Mary Lou Aruda case that was in 1978. And it's one of the biggest cases in that area, where she was found dead and bound to a tree. And James Katner was tried for her murder and got put in jail for it, obviously. And then there was a famous Carl Drew case, a pimp accused of murdering his prostitutes, and he was actually considered in the press as the next Charles Manson, because he was a leader of an actual cult, and police were after him for years. And one of the girls that actually helped him commit the murders actually got released a few years ago from prison, so she's actually out. And there was some question, because I might be wrong about this, and if I'm wrong, anyone that's listening to this want to message us and tell me if I'm wrong. They were convicted. She confessed to committing the crimes, said that he didn't do it, but later they found out that she didn't do it, and it was actually him, or that she was just part of it, and he was in charge of it. it was a whole big web weave of like conspiracy, and it was really just totally ridiculous. But I mean, it goes to show you that like there's got to be a lot of energy, restless spirit energy in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna be insane, and it's definitely creepy at night.
So I have a question for you. So like around here, the monastery, and it just came up with the Freetown. It seems like there's a lot of, and I'll put it in air quotes, satanic activity tied to these places. What's your thoughts on that? Do you buy into it? Do you like? Because the reason I ask is sort of had the satanic panic of the 80s where everything was attributed to Satanism, music stuff, and making evil. And then they had the satanic panic episode on Geraldo, and then it became a national thing where they were just blaming anything on Satanism. And you got to watch out, your kids are going to be taken by Satanists, and they do human sacrifice and this. But it seems like a lot of activity is tied to satanic stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
I do believe in satanic stuff, energy wise. Do I believe that everything that's so-called they claim is satanic is satanic? No. I do believe there's instances of people worshiping Satan and doing his bidding, like in the Freetown State Forest. There were mutilations found, as you said earlier. There was a part from a satanic ritual. That couldn't have been a good thing. Like what were they doing? What were they conjuring up? I think that does create some bad juju, so to speak, some bad energy. So
okay.
I think there is something to that. I don't go in and say, every satanic. There's some kids is fooling around, thinking they Satanists, and they're really not. But I think weeding out the true and the garbage is what we do, and it's probably the hardest part of our job.
Yeah, I was just curious because again, a monastery. Supposedly, I've seen the altar that's built out of stones way in the back. Supposedly, the police found animal sacrifices there. I don't know how true it was. I was young when I heard the story, but I have seen the supposed altar back there. So, and just a lot of, it was always the story, Satanists are in the at night. You don't go to the monastery at night, the Satanists are there. But again, going back to the 80s, the satanic panic, which was a real thing where we just thought everything was Satan, and we created this, we manufactured this satanic hysteria in this country. Blamed everything on it.
I know in the 80s was a height of satanic activity in the Freetown State Forest, which is kind of close to you guys.
It is.
So like I said, they actually performed. They actually formed a police unit strictly because of the occult activity that happened in the Freetown State Forest. Because if you ever go in there, it's the weirdest thing. It's a forest, obviously, but you get so far in there, you can't just turn around. So like you have to go straight. And there are these little, I'm going to say, call them rooms. You turn left and you're in this little room that's surrounded by trees with an entrance, like a little parking lot. You can go there and no one will know you're there. You could like literally kill somebody and nobody would know. Like I just think about that, like going out with some friends that you don't really know very well, and they're fucked in the head. They could take you there. Hey, let's go drive through the Freetown State Forest. Okay, they could kill you and no one will ever find your body.
It's crazy.
Like it's when we go there, you'll see what I mean. It's totally creepy. Maybe we'll shoot some video and put it up on that channel, on that Geek Perspective channel. It's just ridiculous. But let's talk about your favorite subject, the Pukwudgies.
Pukwudgies.
That's 5 times.
So, do you have what Pukwudgie supposedly translates into?
I don't actually.
So the from the research I did, it translates to little wild man of the woods that vanishes.
I have the 2 to 3 foot tall troll like creatures that morph into animals, use magical poison dust, and they basically want your soul. And it's funny, real quick, and I'll let you keep going. There's a guy in Raynham, still lives there. He was in the Bridgewater movie. He actually ran into one on in Raynham on 138, and he claims that he tried to lure him, the Pukwudgie tried to lure him into the woods. He kept going like this and backing up into the woods trying to lure him in. That's kind of creepy. I don't know if he was drunk, high, mushrooms, but he says it happened. So it's like
it is creepy. I just got the hair standing up on my arm.
Yeah, it's like just a like little like not a lot scares me, but little things scare the fuck out of me.
Yeah,
my sister had my buddy doll. I would throw him in the closet because I'm like, I don't want him near me. You know?
Well, yeah, 2 to 3 foot humanoid.
Yeah.
But hairy and and that, I mean, it could be that goes back to, like they say originally the Pukwudgie was friendly with humans, and then over time soured on humans for various reasons, and now they try to play tricks on it. So I mean,
know the story of how it happened?
No, I don't know the specific story. No.
The folklore is there was a giant in charge of the Pukwudgies. And the Pukwudgies was attached to the Wampanoag Indians. They worshipped him. And the giant basically kept the Pukwudgies in check. So if they did something wrong, he would punish them, but he just kept them in line. One day, the giant was lured into the ocean by some strange woman, and he followed her. And when he did this, he put his sons in charge of the Pukwudgies. Was supposed to watch him. Well, when he came back, the Pukwudgies were running rampant. They were evil now. They were doing whatever they want. While his sons just let them do whatever they want. They were lazy and just let them run rampant. And when he tried to get him in check again, they weren't going to have it. And they killed his sons. And then they attacked him. And that's where the story ends. Nobody knows what happened to the giant after that. The story just ends at that point, and they are where they are. They are who they are, and yeah, they the Wampanoag worshipped them, and then they turned on them, and that was it.
Jeez. So they kind of remind me. Some of their characteristics almost remind me of like a trickster.
Yes, they call it trickster. Creatures. There's actually a story where people go to the Assornet Ledge a lot in the summertime, and the Assornet Ledge is a ledge that overhangs a lake, and that's supposed to be haunted also. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But this person claims they were looking over the ledge, and they felt a little hand stop pushing them over the ledge. And they say if you get close to the ledge, you start feeling the gravity or something from behind pushing you to want you to push you over the ledge. And you want to jump. Well, whether it's the man, it's a Pukwudgie doing it, or the woman who haunts the area, I don't know. But we'll get into that a little later. We'll have to see where that leads to, so to speak, in the rest of our story here. But yeah, they're the devilish little creatures.
Yeah, they're a little creepy. The pictures of them are creepy online. Anybody out there, you should definitely do a Google search of Pukwudgie. It's creepy little bastards.
Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of roads going through the forest. Real quick, Slab Bridge Road. In 96, two men were driving through there, and they ran over a guy just randomly. They didn't see him. He jumped out in front of the car. They ran him over. When they pulled over and got out and looked, there was nobody there. Just vanished. And then there's a road called Bell Rock Road. A woman saw. Woman was that?
I think I've heard of Bell Rock Road.
Okay. A woman saw a man with short hair in a brown shirt holding up his hands in the middle of the street as she was driving towards him. And as she drove through him, the car temperature of the car just got real cold. And then she stopped, got out, and there was nothing there. And that's her story. She claims that she drove through him, temperature dropped, and then she got out and there was nothing there. Two little folklore stories. Now, have you heard of the Asonic Ledge?
I think I read about it a little bit, but I don't know too much about it.
This is to me a famous place I want to go to. There've been over a dozen suicides there. People go there to kill themselves. And there's a lady there, all in white, called the Lady of the Ledge. And long story short, she was there waiting for her lover, who was supposed to be leaving his wife for her, and they were going to run away and live together. Well, he never showed up, and she jumped off the ledge. And you supposedly can see her from the bottom. As you look up, you see a woman in white on top of the ledge, and then she just falls over. And when she falls over, there's no splash in the water. Nothing. She just vanishes. So that's that. I would love to see that. That'd be not someone kill themselves, but
no, I know.
Lady at the ledge.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you're on top of the ledge, you can see balls of light from the water coming up to the surface, but not quite being able to make it. And some people says that it's all the spirits that have killed themselves in the lake, trying to escape and go to heaven, I guess, or go somewhere else. And they can't reach the surface. They're stuck there.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
How about Profile Rock?
Yeah, I know a little bit about Profile Rock with the ghost of the man that's sitting there, supposedly legs crossed, reaching out to you as you approach him. That's sort of all I know about it. I don't know too much more about it, but that alone is creepy enough.
Yeah, supposedly, if you look at the rock formation, some people say it looks like Chief Massasoit, the leader of the Wampanoag during the arrival of the Pilgrims. And King Philip would venture there and just sit and meditate. And some people say he was looking for guidance, trying to figure out what to do. And some people think it's him sitting there, legs crossed, trying to figure out how to get the white man from destroying everything they own and fucking them all up.
It's still happening. It's still happening.
So. It still has, yeah, he didn't solve that problem.
Yeah.
Still has that problem. And then on Route 44, have you heard of 801 Rock?
You were telling me a little about it before the show, but no, I don't know too much.
Place. King Philip, he's dead and gone, and his son 801 took over. And this is a place where 801 surrendered to Benjamin Church, who promised that they would be fair, and him and his tribe would be taken care of, and they'll get a fair trial. Well, yeah, that never happened. They beheaded them all.
Wait a minute. So you mean to say the white man lied?
Yeah. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I guess one of my investigators went there one day on a quick whim, and supposedly people have seen a fire at the base of the rock, and as you walk closer to it, it gets bigger and bigger, but there's no sound coming from the fire, and there's no heat coming from the fire, and then it just vanishes. And you can smell something burning, supposedly, and shadow figures in the back. And it's funny because you park and you walk down basically into the woods, and it's only about 30 feet away. But when you go further in the woods, supposedly you can see shadow figures in the woods as of like old Native Americans kind of watching you.
Oh wow.
We didn't experience any of that at all, but yeah, supposedly some people have claimed to have seen that. And again, we can go there too. It's pretty straightforward. It's easy to get to. It's right on 44.
Nice.
How about the Horbein School?
So I know the story a little bit, but
well, it's just a little. I've actually seen it. It's pretty cool little schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And people have said to have gone there and got out of the cars and they hear sounds coming from inside the school. They get over to the window, they look in, there's a class going on. Well, when they turn around and turn back to look in the classroom, it's dark and there's nobody in there.
Mm-hmm.
There are reports of sounds coming from the other side of the school, like kids outside playing. You walk around, there's nobody there, but you hear giggling. That's kind of creepy. You're sitting there and all of a sudden you hear little kids giggling.
Little kids giggling, even when the little kids are alive, is creepy. So dead little kids giggling, it's super creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something creepy about a group of little kids laughing in unison. I don't know. Maybe it's from watching Pink Floyd The Wall too much or something. But yeah, there's something inherently creepy about that.
Yeah, it's just a creep factor. So yeah, I mean, you know, you wonder how realistic this is, but I still want to investigate though.
Oh hell yeah!
You know, and a woman claims she went to the school. I don't know if she works for the school or what, but she went there at dawn one morning, and she said she got out of her car. And she saw a person, but she said it was more of a shadow. Wasn't scary, but she's just like, couldn't quite make out who it was. Just walked through the door, and she's like, oh, maybe the door was open. I just maybe my eyes are just playing tricks on me. So she goes over to the door is locked, and there's nobody in there. I'm like, that's strange.
Yeah, that's oof.
You know, it's we have such great stories, and then you have one of the stories that like I'm least the story that I think least is realistic because every state I believe has the story, the red-headed hitchhiker.
Yes,
you have your own down there.
Yeah,
you know, it's like every state has their own version.
Every state has their own version.
I will tell you though, we're coming back from an investigation down in Rehoboth, which is on 44, and we're driving. We drove by a guy with a flannel shirt and jeans on, with red hair and a beard. I'm like, the dude playing in the red hitchhiker yacht on the side of the road. We're like, hey, you know.
Was he hitchhiking?
He was standing there, but it was actually a real person. But it's like, wait a minute, what's he doing?
That's kind of creepy. Yeah, well, you know, that would be fun to see because nowadays you don't see anybody hitchhiking. I used to hitchhike back in the day, and I don't suggest anybody out there hitchhike because it's not like it used to. When I lived in Narragansett, Rhode Island, down by the college, my car was always getting impounded for something stupid. And God, I hitchhiked. God, I think I did a whole semester hitchhiking one time just from school and stuff. But yeah, so that'd be really cool because if you saw it, good chance it's the entity because nobody hitchhikes anymore. I haven't seen a hitchhiker in 15 years, maybe 20 years. I know I can't remember the last time I saw somebody hitchhiking. In the 80s, everybody hitchhiked.
Yep. So, all right, I gotta hold on when I get to take the dog out.
All right,
I'll be right back. He's freaking out over here. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Stupid dugout. He didn't do anything.
Mm.
He just wanted to be an annoyance. So, as I was saying earlier, the ran into hitchhiker. You know, there were reports of like people pulling over and picking him up, and he would just stare at them in the back seat. Imagine that. You pick up some guy, sit in your back seat, you look in your rearview mirror, and he's just staring at you.
Yeah, that's
Not
creepy.
saying anything, just staring at you. Then he just vanishes.
That's creepy. So
That is very
creepy.
creepy. But like I said, I bet that started where people don't want their kids giving strangers rides or go hitchhiking.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal opinion. If you guys think it's real, let us know in the comments below. Let us know what you think. You know,
Mm-hmm.
let us know if you think it's real stuff. Anything you want to add
To that story or in
that
general?
story or anything else you got to throw in there?
Not to that story. I had a question for you. As far as so, a lot of activity in this area, and there's other places around the world that have a lot of activity. And it's not as widespread with the Bridgewater Triangle as it is like Skinwalker Ranch. But I have heard people say it, especially regarding the Bigfoots and the giant snakes and the Thunderbird / pterodactyls and the Pukwudgie, that it's possibly like a doorway from an alternate dimension. That's a big theory in the Skinwalker Ranch. That's like that in the last couple of years has become sort of the preeminent theory as to that, why there's so many weird sightings of creatures that have long been extinct or we thought were just imaginary, like a unicorn or something like that. But they're thinking that maybe it's some sort of portal from an alternate dimension or the multiverse or something. A, have you heard that? And or do you think that is a possibility?
Anything's. I think anything's. I've never heard that, but I think anything's possible. You know, I'm one of those people that believes I want to see it for myself to fully believe anything, but I think there's so much about this world that we know nothing about, and if anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just ran across that when I was doing the Bridgewater because, like I said, it's very popular in the last couple of years with Skinwalker Ranch because they have just weird creatures again that that show up, and they're like, well, this is from a reality where those creatures weren't wiped out by humans or whatever the case. So I thought it was just kind of interesting because it's like I've never really been into like sci-fi stuff, but recently I've been getting more with paranormal. I've been really getting more into like the sort of alternate dimension. There possibility of a multiverse, essentially. I find it pretty interesting.
Well, that's what happens. You get in the paranormal field, and it lures you into other aspects of history or whatever. Like me personally, I've gotten into our history because of the paranormal, because our history is very important to what we do. As a kid, I was never into the history, but now I am so into the history, just basic history. We investigated a friend's house where we found out that her house 100 years ago was her street was all farmland. All the houses weren't there, and there was basically a farmhouse there at the end of the road. And that, like, there was cows and pigs, and no one knew that. But because of our research, we were able to find that out.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like, huh? Like, you forget that New England at one point was all dirt, and it's like huh? That's pretty awesome. So, paranormal field, it has a lot to do with history.
Yes, it does. Yes.
You got anything else?
No, I mean, because I know, we'll be doing some investigations within the Bridgewater. I mean, probably a majority of our investigations will be within the Bridgewater Triangle, which is like I don't think we mentioned it's about 200 square miles is the area. And I know, we'll be doing the investigations, but I also know that we'll probably come back and talk more about some other stuff in future episodes. So I don't have anything else today. Personally. What's that?
The dog is going crazy here.
Oh, really?
He's trying to jump on me and just being a pain in the ass. He's not getting attention. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I had finished.
All right. I wrote down some books that people want to read. There's some good books here. Goes to the Bridgewater Triangle, which is a very good book. Dark Woods, Cults, Crime, and the Paranormal in the Freetown State Forest. Another great book.
Cool.
Boston Haunted History. Boston. Exploring the ghosts and the graves of Beantown. There's actually a tour that you can take on that also. And then a friend of mine, Jeff Belanger, he has a book called The Encyclopedia of Haunted Places. You can get that on his website, jeffbelanger.com. If you do that, tell him Roy sent you. You won't get a discount or anything, but just tell him Roy sent you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the great documentary on Prime called The Bridgewater Triangle with Jeff Belanger is in it. And
Lauren Coleman's in it and a bunch of others.
Yeah, it's just a cool little documentary. I had watched it even before we even ever discussed talking about the Bridgewater Triangle. I mean, we had talked about it, but for our show, I had watched it way before that. It's a great little documentary, and you kind of, you check it out. You'll get maybe a little more in depth on it. So I definitely suggest that. It's on Amazon Prime.
And make sure you tune in next week for episode 8 of our podcast. We are discussing our paranormal team. If you didn't know, yes, we are a paranormal team on the South Shore of Massachusetts, based in New England. If you didn't know our accents, and our team name is Reaper Paranormal Investigations. You can find us on Facebook. If you need an investigation, let us know. But other than that, next week we're going to discuss our team, our cases, our equipment, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you join us for that. So you all set? You good?
I am good.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching our show today. Make sure you tune in next week for the Reaper Paranormal Team show. And for Tom and myself, you have a good night.
Thanks, guys.